Shalawam, and welcome back to The Hidden Chosen. I am Hadassah Batsaiwan, returning with this marvelous study called Who is Yahawah? But this particular one, part 2, I call it Yahawah the Consuming Fire. We looked in part 1, we know he is fire, so we already know who he is. So we're going to delve deeper into him as this consuming fire. So let's get started. Let us delve deeper into who Yahawah is, his likeness, how and why he is manifested here on the earth. We know that the essence of who he is glory, which is revealed to us to be like a fire, a special kind of fire, a consuming fire. Let's look at the book of Shalawam, the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 1. Now Masha kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of Alahayam, even Horeb. Now this Mount Horeb is also Mount Sinai. They're one and the same. Verse 2. And the angel of Yahawah appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Masha said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. So when he turned aside, he wanted to go behind the bush to observe closer as to why this bush has fire upon it, but the bush is not burning. Now remember, he is in the desert, and these aren't exactly bush that is full of foliage, green foliage. They're going to have some dried bits and pieces onto them, so they will be easy to burn with fire, natural fire. So this is why Masha was so curious. The bush is on fire, but it's not burning. Verse 4. And when Yahawah saw that he turned aside to see, Alahayam called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Masha, Masha. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Do not draw near here. Put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground. Now, there are quite a few things I want to address here in these verses. Let's start with the angel of Yahawah. The angel of Yahawah was the physical form of Hamashiach before he came to the earth in the flesh. So when you go into the Old Testament and you see, especially in the Tharawah, we see the angel of Yahawah appeared to a number of our forefathers, like Abraham, to, of course, yes, Masha, to Yahawasha'o, who's Joshua, to Gadaowan, that's Gideon. He appeared to his servants when he had a purpose for them to perform. Okay, when he is about to bring forth his plan through them. Okay, with Masha, and I think I'm skipping some verses here, so let me pause on that thought. Okay, let me pause there. This was his title, meaning the angel of Yahawah. This was Hamashiach's title when he appeared to his servants on the earth. Yet we see there is no separation between Ha'aba and Haban, meaning the sun, appearing as fire. Why? Because Ha'aba, Haban, meaning the sun, and Ruach HaKadosh share the same glory. We know the fire is glory, but it is represented to us here on the earth, or it is manifested to us here on the earth as fire. Now, if you go back to verse 2, we see that the angel of Yahawah, this is Hamashiach, appeared unto Masha in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And yet, if you go down to verse 4, when Masha wanted to go behind the bush, it was Yahawah that saw him. And yet, it was Allahayam who called out to him out of the midst of the bush. And we know Allahayam is plural, speaking of Allahayam Yahawah, Allahayam Hamashiach, Yahawah, and Allahayam Ruach HaKadash. It is a plural form, a title that is shared by these three entities. All right, these three divine entities. They are ascended glory. That's what Allahayam means. Ascended glory. In the Bible, it is written down as God, but they are not gods. They are Allahayam. That is their proper title, the correct title. All right. So when you see that title there, Allahayam, you know that it is not just one that is represented here in this fire. Okay, we see the Father and we see the Son. All right? Okay. The uniqueness of their relationship is such that when we look at one of them, we will inevitably touch on all of them. So even though we see the angel of Yahawah, who is Hamashiach, and we see Yahawah here being spoken of, we can also include Ruach HaKodesh because he is not outside of the Father and the Son. They are all together and they all operate together. Doesn't matter if their titles or names aren't being called out, they are operating together. All right? Hamashiach is the physical and the express image of Yahawah, meaning that he represents Ha'abah on the earth. And he does only what Ha'abah tells him to do. So he takes on a physical form and became the angel of Yahawah. And then he took on a physical form and became Hamashiach, Yahawah, the word that was made flesh. He was born of a woman. All right? So his presence here on the earth is representing Ha'abah. He is not representing himself. That's why he said, I only do what my Father tells me to do. I only speak what my Father tells me to speak. Because he is here on behalf of his Father, our Father. When we take a deeper look at Hamashiach, we will see and understand his relationship and his part, his role that he plays with Ha'abah and Ruach HaKodesh. Okay? We will look more at their relationship when we study who Hamashiach is. Although Yahawah is a consuming fire, when he revealed himself to his servants, they were protected by him, so that they saw only a fraction of his glory, and even that fraction still made them weak to the point of fainting. We saw that when Abraham, this is from the book of the Apocalypse of Abraham, in the last study, when he was before Yahawah, before this fire, the throne that was burning with fire and wheels of fire and the angels that were all fire, he grew weak. Same thing with Yahazakal. Same thing with Yashaoya. Anytime they were caught up in a vision to see the glory of Yahawah, they grow faint. And now this is due to the weakness of this outer man called flesh, which is subject to the sin nature within unless Yahawah intervenes. So because of who we are today is why we cannot stand in the presence of Yahawah in the fullness of his glory. We would die. When Adam and Hawa, before their sin, when they were in the garden of Odan, they were able to commune with Yahawah face to face. All right? They were able to commune with him because they were fully in the image of who he is. So there was no fear of death. But after they sinned, then that glory that once emanated from within them was shut off. And sin entered in. And now they have a fear of the light because the sin that entered in was darkness. And darkness hates the light. So do you understand now what's going on here? However, when we believe in Hamashiach and we're cloaked in the righteousness of Hamashiach, of course, now it is allowing us to be able to step into the realm where Yahawah is. But when he brings us into the actual glory of where he is and of who he is, he has to veil us so that we only can see a fraction of who he is. What Abraham saw was only a fraction. What Yahazaka'al, who is Ezekiel, saw was only a fraction. Even when Yochanan saw Hamashiach in all his glory, he saw him only a fraction of his glory. And yet they all fainted. They all fainted. The Hamashiach will have to come and raise them up, or an angel will come and have to raise them up. Take them by the hand to give them strength so that this flesh body can bear to be in the presence of such holiness. All right? So unless he intervenes, Yahawah intervenes, we're done. We're a cooked goose or cooked geese. All right? If we dare to go before him as he is, we're done. All right? Without his protection, man would die if exposed fully to his glory, even a fraction of it. But his servants are spared and strengthened to bear with his glory. So he will send his angels or his son to come and give his servants that he wants to speak to the strength in order to bear up in his presence. We really don't know who we're dealing with. Because if we had an inkling of an idea of the power of Yahawah, a lot of people would be repenting on their faces and they would turn away from all the wicked things that they're doing and all the false prophecies that they're giving and the false teachings and the false doctrines. But they don't know him. So they can carry on as they are. All right. When Masha saw the burning bush, it appeared as a fire, but not engulfing the bush like fire normally does, like fires normally do. This fire, the glory of Yahawah, engulfed the entire bush, including its roots. And even though Masha was not too near the bush, He was still standing on the portion of the land where the roots of the bush extended, making the entire circumference of the ground holy. So the top portion above the ground of the bush was not the only portion of the bush that was consumed with the glory of Yahawah. The bottom portion, which would include the roots, were also filled with the glory of Yahawah. And so, whatever direction these roots extended, that entire ground will become holy. Now, I want to go back to the last verse here where Allahayam told Masha to don't come near, put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground. We will see this occurring in the next study when we look at the character of Yahawah. We will see that this is going to be repeated for Yahawah, who is Joshua, when the captain of the host of Yahawah's armies, or Yahawah, would speak to him and tell him the same thing. So why did Allahayam tell Masha and Yahawah this thing here about taking off their shoes? Because they were being prepared for a purpose, a divine and holy purpose. We know Masha became the deliverer of the 12 tribes of Yasha'al from Matzorayim. He brought the 10 judgments against Matzorayim. Fast forward to Yahawah, who is Joshua. He became the next deliverer. But then let's call him leader, because they were already delivered. He became the next leader because he was the servant of Masha, and he was appointed by Yahawah to be the leader to take the 12 tribes, they will be the first generation in the wilderness, to take them from the wilderness into the land that was promised to them, the land flowing with milk and honey. But before they entered into the land, Joshua, Yahawah, had a battle, one of the biggest battles that he had to fight. And it was against the Midianites. It's funny because Jethro is a priest of Midian. All right? Now, he had always been the servant of Masha. He followed what Masha would tell him to do. And this was a big battle for him as a leader. All right? Masha's not around. It's only him now. So Hamashiach had to come, and the very same thing that was spoken to Masha before he began his ministry as the deliverer for the 12 tribes of Yasha'al, the same thing had to be done to Yahawah, who is Joshua. He came and anointed them. This was their time of preparation to be anointed for their purpose. All right? Okay. So let's go on now to Shalawam, chapter 24, Exodus chapter 24, verse 15. And Masha went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. This is Mount Sinai. And the glory of Yahawah abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Masha out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of Yahawah was like a devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of Habanai Yasha'al. So every single person in the camp saw this fire. And even before the fire came down on top of the mountain, he was already leading them as a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. So they were already seeing the manifestation of Yahawah before them. But when he came down now as his in his glory, his glory came down upon Mount Sinai, it was not a quiet thing. There was rumblings and thunders and lightnings and voices. Okay? And this was where every eye of the 12 tribes of Yasha'al witnessed the glory of Yahawah. We're going to read some more and we're going to see what they said about him. Right? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Because Yahawah revealed himself like fire, it is the reason why fire became a major part of our forefathers' culture, as Yahawah instructed them to offer sacrifices and to burn incense. So we're going to look at this a little later on in this study. Therefore, fire and smoke, smoke which is like the clouds in which he also appeared to his people, are seen throughout the Tharawah, which is the Torah. However, the fire and the smoke that Yasha'al were instructed to offer had to be according to his instructions, or else he struck them down. His glory is so divine that even the fire and the burning of the incense for the services, which reflected his glory and showed his approval of the offerings, could not be offered presumptuously, or else the same fire struck out against those persons. And we see an example of that here with the two sons of Ahawah, the high priest. Let's look at the book of Bamadabar, the book of Numbers, chapter 3, verse 4. And Nadab and Abihu died before Yahawah when they offered strange fire before Yahawah in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children. And Alaozar, who is Eleazar, and Ayathamar, that's Ithamar, ministered in the priest's office in the sight of Ahawah their father. So this strange fire was them burning incense without the instructions of Yahawah leading them to burn this incense. You see, there were only specific times that they were permitted to burn incense, and these two sons of Ahawah went outside of those requirements, those instructions, and burnt incense because they felt, hey, we're priests. We feel like burning incense, so let's burn some incense. And that's not what Yahawah wanted, because the incense, if you've ever burnt incense, it creates smoke. And that smoke is supposed to represent him in the services. So that when the priest and the high priest and the priesthood make the offerings according to Yahawah's instructions, he would receive them. The burnt offerings, because it was burnt with fire, and the incense, because it was also burnt with fire and it created smoke. We saw in a previous one of the studies before that the high priest had to burn incense when he went into the most holy place, the Holy of Holies, to shield him from the glory of Yahawah who was already in there. So that the smoke from the incense acted as a barrier between him and Yahawah. so that he would not be struck down dead. So everything that he gave our forefathers to do for the services and the sacrifices had a purpose. So when these two sons went ahead and did whatever they pleased, what happened? The fire that they created to make the incense burned them up. All right? And we saw that happen to the 250 princes that also offered incense. They were the ones that went against Masha and Ahawaran because they felt, hey, who raised you up, Masha, to be a leader? After all that Masha did for them. Okay? Suddenly now they're in the wilderness and they have a title and they felt, okay, well, we can take it from here, Masha. We don't need you anymore. Who raised you up anyway? And Masha's like, okay, you know what? I never asked for this position. It was given to me. Now, I'm paraphrasing the story for you, okay? Let's prove who Yahawah has called to be the leader and who has not. Who is he accepting to be his leader? Who has he called? Let's light the censers. Let's make burn incense. All right? And let's offer incense to him and see which ones he would accept and which ones he would not. And these 250 men, the fire burned them up, but Masha was not. And not only them, but there were other men in there that were all part of these rebels. Well, I think it was Korah and the other two names escape me. All of them were destroyed, and their household, the entire household, those three men, and they were all swallowed up in the ground. Why? You don't play with Yahawah, and you don't assume a leadership role because you think you have a voice. All right, this is what happened to these people. Let's look at Madabar chapter 16, book of Numbers chapter 16, verse 35. And they came out a fire from Yahawah and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. And Yahawah spoke unto Masha, saying, Speak unto Alaozar, that's the son of Ahawaran the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning and scatter you the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. You see, this is the point that I'm making to you, that when Yahawah gave Masha the instruction to tell the priests, the priesthood and Ahawaran about about burning incense and even the offerings, it is because the fire is represented or representative of him. And when they offer up the sacrifices and burn the incense according to his instructions, it becomes a sweet smelling savor unto his nostrils, which means that he has accepted and everything is good. Why did he tell them to do this? Because this was his way of atoning them before him so that his wrath would not destroy them. And part of that has to be obedience to follow and do exactly what he said to do. Not do things that you think that you want to do, but you do exactly what he says to do. And the fire is holy. in this case here, the fire that burned the incense made it holy. And not only was that holy, but even the censer that carried the incense that was burnt became holy as well. Verse 38, the censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates for a covering of the altar. So you're going to beat them to flatten them so that they can cover the altar. All 250 of these censers. For they offered before Yahawah, therefore they are hallowed. So they offered incense before Yahawah, which made the items holy. All right. And they shall be a sign unto Habana Yashwa'al. And Alaozar, the priest, took the brazen censers, wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar, to be a memorial unto Habana Yashwa'al, that no stranger, which is not the seed of Ahawarin, come near to offer incense before Yahawah, that he be not as Korah and as his company, as Yahawah said to him by the hand of Masha. So only the priesthood were supposed to offer the incense. But this was a battle. When I said battle, a spiritual battle that Masha was drawn into, because these men wanted to take over the leadership and they wanted to get rid of him. All right. So one of them was Korah, then Abiram, and there was a third one, Dothan. I believe his name is Dothan. Dothan, Abiram, and Korah. These were the three that rose up, and then these 250 joined in with them. And Masha said, "Why are you fighting with me?" Well, I didn't. I did not ask for this position. It was given to me. Okay. All right. Yahawah in our forefathers' days is still the same Yahawah today. He hasn't changed, and he will never change. But what is preserving us today from his wrath is his Son, who has established his grace upon the earth. So we are doing things just as bad, if not worse, than what our forefathers have done throughout their generations. But the reason why we're still here, he has not consumed us with his fire, is because of what Hamashiach did on behalf of us. He has now become our adversary. Sorry, our advocate. Adversary is the opposite. Sorry. He has become our advocate and stands on our behalf before the Ha'abah and speak to him on our behalf and intercede for us in heaven. Otherwise, we would all been done by now. Look at how some of our brethren are absolutely vile and wicked. The things that come out of their mouths, the things that they do, and they think, okay, well, I have done it and gotten away with it, so I'm going to just keep doing it because it's okay. And there seem to be people that accept what I'm doing and they're doing it too. So we're all okay. Nothing's happened to us. But they don't understand that they're living now under grace. And that grace, when it's finished, they're done too. They're done. All right? They're done. They have no idea who they're playing with. Okay, let's read on. His grace, meaning Hamashiach's grace, has bought us time from the fierce anger of Yahawah, who can destroy all. And at the same time, this borrowed time has given us time to repent of our sins. We have every opportunity today to repent for our sins, repent for our transgressions and our iniquities, and to turn away and return to Yahawah with all our hearts, soul, and our minds. But rebellion, disobedience, the fruit of rebellion, will draw people away from repentance. Pride will also draw people away from Yahawah. Lust in all its form, whether for flesh or for financial gain, is another way in which the enemy, another tool or tools that the enemy use to draw us away from Yahawah. Until we have an awareness of the sin that we are committing or have committed, we will continue on in that sin and to make even worse or to commit even worse sins. Doesn't just stop there. You keep committing more and more sins and more transgressions because you've gotten away thus far. Oh, let's see how much further I can go on this path. And that is what happens when Ruach HaKodesh is not there and have you on a leash to say to you, stop. No, son. No. But you're on this endless rope and you're going farther and farther away from the light where you can't even see it, not even a speck of it. And you are embracing all the things that your heart and your mind is telling you to do and to say. Because there's no conviction, no guilt, no nothing. It's all good. Listen, if you are going through your life and you do not feel convicted about anything in your life, I would seriously instruct you to get down on your hands and knees and repent. And beg for mercy, because it means that Ruach HaKodesh is not even dealing with you. Who knows, maybe he's completely done with you. We are battling evil forces all the day long. And yes, it's not like every day you're going to do something wrong, but we are challenged to forsake righteousness and holiness so that the enemy can draw us back into his darkness. And Ruach HaKodesh is always there, and that's where the tug of war comes in. And even if you begin to think a certain way, you start to feel convicted because he is speaking to you and warning you, and you can feel it in your heart. But if you don't feel any of the above and you feel all good about everything that you do, something is wrong. Something is wrong. We are living under grace at this moment, where the wrath of Allah Hayam, Yahawah, is not breaking forth upon us to destroy us. But there's only so much and so long that we will continue on in this manner. All right. Yahawah is not one whom we can wage war against and expect to win. This is the thinking of the foolish, deceived agents of the devils here on the earth. All these wicked ones And you know who I'm talking about, bringing about all these different agendas and what have you. They think that they're going to rule the world, rule the earth with their masters, the devils. They think that they can wage war against Yahawah and win. But they're ignorant of the truth, and the devils have fooled even them into thinking this way. The devils know better than them that they have lost the game. They have lost the battle. But they have deceived even their agents, their children, to think that they're going to come and take over and run this world for however long they want to run it. Yahawah is a consuming fire, and he would destroy all of his enemies, even those of our brethren, if they fail to repent of their wicked ways. You think he's afraid to destroy us? You think because we can say we're Hebrew Israelites or we're from the offspring of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and that's enough to save us from his wrath? Okay, go back to the Bible and read again. See how many of our brethren he had destroyed. Before they even left Goshen, he destroyed some of our brethren in the 3 days of darkness because they didn't want to leave. And then when they went into the wilderness, how many times did he break out against them? Many times. And it was so bad that the generation that came out of Goshen, with the exception of 2 men and their children and their families, they're the only 2 that made it into the promised land. All the rest died in the wilderness. That was their punishment for being rebellious and disobedient. And if he does that with our brethren, with his own children, you think he's afraid to, in the past, you think he's afraid to do it to us there? You think by wearing stupid costumes and symbols that's sufficient to keep his wrath away from us? No. Let's look at Debarayam, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 24. For Yahawah Allah Hayak is a consuming fire. Even Allah Hayam Kana'ah, he's jealous. He's jealous. He does not want us to worship any other gods, only worship him. If Yahawah punished his own people for their wickedness in the past and will continue his judgments against all of Yashraal today and tomorrow, how much more is his wrath stored up for nations because of their wicked deeds? How much more? Nobody's escaping him and his judgments. So either you'll be rewarded or you'll be punished. So how do they expect to escape the righteous judgments of Yahawah based on who he is? He is righteous and holy, and everything that you see going on is self-righteousness or unrighteousness and just pure wickedness. He is a refiner's fire seeking to purify, to refine, and if not, to destroy. Let's look at Malachi. That is the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Yahawah, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, said Yahawah Sabaoth. That's Yahawah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appears? You think when Hamashiach comes through the eastern gate, he's coming in the clouds first to regather his people, the southern kingdom. You think any of these devils on this earth can do anything against that? You think they can stop him? When he comes again the second time as king on the earth to start his millennial reign, and the armies come out against him, what did he do? Did he raise up a sword and start fighting them? No, he opened his mouth and he spoke, and they were done. Every single one, even the animals that they were on, done. You think any of them could stand before him? And the devils that were behind them cast into the lake of fire. Done. How do they expect? Sorry, I read that already. Read all of that already. Sorry. Let's read on. For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. He's coming to cleanse. That's what fire does. When fire is applied to raw gold or raw silver, it's to burn out the muck, to make it pure, to remove the impurities. Same thing with soap. When you wash your clothes, you're trying to get the dirt and the muck and the sweat and what have you out of it to make it clean and pure. Verse 3. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Lawai and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Yahawah an offering in righteousness. So don't worry that he's talking about the sons of Lawai. This is a twofold prophecy, and the sons of Lawai is speaking of the priesthood, the office of the priesthood that we are all called in. So when he is purifying us and refining us, it is to become his priests, just like the sons of Lawai. He wants us to be purged so that we are as pure gold and pure silver. Purge out the chaff, the rubble, the impurities, so that we can now make an offering to Yahawah in righteousness. Because once those things are taken out, which, by the way, is speaking of sin, transgressions, and iniquities, that's what he's burning out of us, so that now we become righteous before him and holy before him. That's what the priesthood had to do when they were in the wilderness and when they were living in our land. They had to make offerings for themselves to purify themselves. And today, even though we're living in the lands of our captivity, he is still doing the same work in each and every one of us if we permit him to. All right? If we permit him to. It's not always a pleasant experience. I can tell you that for sure. But when he's done, you are amazed at the feeling of sanctification that washes over you. You've been rid of a heavy burden called sin. All right, let's move on to verse 4. Then shall the offering of Yahawah and Yarawashalam be pleasant unto Yahawah. And that's speaking of the southern kingdom. Yahawah and Yarawashalam together is the southern kingdom. As in the days of old and as in the former years. So that's why he's dealing with us now. We, the southern kingdom, made up of Yahawah, the tribe of Bana, Yambayam, that's the tribe of Benjamin, and Lawai, which is also represented by Yarawashalam, that title Yarawashalam. So when you see those two together, it's speaking of the southern kingdom. Don't worry that Bana Yambayam is not spoken of here. They're kind of roped into Yahawah. They're like one together with Yahawah. All right. So this is speaking of the southern kingdom, that he is coming to refine and purify us. All right. He's going to use his fire. All right. As in the days of old and as in the former years. So before, meaning our forefathers, when they were in the land, all right, when they had to go through the services and purify themselves and be refined so that they can make offerings to him that were acceptable to him. Now it's going to be the same thing today. That's why I keep warning you guys. When he is coming to regather the southern kingdom, he's not regathering any rebels. All this is to warn us and to let us know. Allow him to refine us now and purify us now. Okay. Verse 5, and I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, said Yahawah Sabaoth. So let's not glaze through these verses, these sentences here. So he's coming to bring judgment against the sorcerers, the one that is worshiping pagan gods. That's what sorcerers are. They're worshiping pagan gods and performing those rituals for those same gods that they worship. And against adulterers, again, idolatry. All right? Idolatry. And against the false swearers. They make us a promise and they don't keep it. And against those that oppress the hireling, those that work for their wages, that work for them. And the widow and the fatherless, and turn aside the stranger. That is talking about the Gentiles. You know, we have our brethren that speak ill of the Gentiles, that have already condemned the Gentiles. We should not do that, because Yahawah is going to bring a remnant, just like he's bringing in a remnant of the southern kingdom, a remnant of the northern kingdom. He will also bring in a remnant of the Gentiles to be with us. Not all of them are the same. Not all of them have the same wicked heart. There are a few of them that belong to Yahawah. And we're not to turn them away. We are supposed to encourage them and teach them and prepare them as much as we need to prepare each other and ourselves. Because they're coming in with us, whether we like it or not. But they're not coming in at the same time, but they will come in. Yahawah said that. All right, we're not to turn them away. Verse 6, for I am Yahawah, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. I have not destroyed you, because I made a promise to your forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Because he had made a promise to them, we are not consumed. All right? We see from various accounts thus far how the fire of Yahawah refined, purged, and even destroyed. But this is not limited to the past. but he will continue to do the same for the present time and the future. He will refine those who belong to him, but all others will be purged out from amongst his people to be destroyed. That's why he's sending his judgments. The book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased Yahawah. So right off the bat, we see why Yahawah got angry with our forefathers, because all they do is complain. Moan and complain. We don't have enough water. We don't have enough food. We're sick and tired of this bread from heaven. We want something to stick to our ribs. This bread is too light, even though it's nutritious. We want meat. Right? This has been the nature of our people all the way from back then, even today. We have not changed. Few have changed, but only a few. The greater majority of our people are still this way. They're still waiting for reparations. They're waiting for the luxury liners to take them to some place somewhere, I don't know. There's so many places these luxury liners are supposed to take them. I'm lost. Some say, oh, it's going to take them to Eden. They're going to take a luxury liner to Eden. That's their second Exodus. They're going to travel in style. You see, why are people going to be destroyed? When you allow yourself to lust after things, you want an easy, cushy life. Well, we're going to get it easy and we're going to get it cushy, but on the way there, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cushy. Right now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cushy. This is the time that he is correcting us so that we now become transformed to be his people and stop being like these heathens on this earth. So much of them have rubbed off on us is unbelievable. And people, they're okay with it. Okay with it. And Yahawah heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of Yahawah burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. So he started from the outside and burning coming in, right? That's what his anger did. That's what he did in his anger, is to send his fire. So this is the same fire of who he is, his glory. But like I said to you, it can either refine you, purify you, or it could destroy you too. Whatever. And these ones that were complaining, he was done with them. And don't think that they're coming back in the resurrection. When he destroys his people, it's for good. They're not coming back. They're doomed for utter destruction because they're wicked. All right? Don't think you have a second chance when he destroys you the first time. When he destroys you the first time, you're destroyed forever. There's no second chance. Verse 2, and the people cried unto Masha. And when Masha prayed unto Yahawah, the fire was quenched. Despite the fact that Yahawah is all-powerful, he desires to be Ha'abba to his people, to be their Alahayam, and they to be in covenant with him. His display of glory was supposed to reinforce what they witnessed in Matzorayim and in the wilderness. So they saw all the miracles, the 10 plagues, and even crossing the Red Sea, and the destruction of the armies of Matzorayim. They saw all of that. receiving manna from heaven, water from a rock, bitter waters turn sweet, quail coming, and yet they did not believe him or trusted in him. All they do is complain. He spoke to Habaniah Yashua from the fire he manifested as upon the earth. For their benefit and for us today, who believe in him, that by faith we will walk in obedience to his voice. So when we read the accounts of our forefathers, it's supposed to help us to understand who Yahawah is and help us to grow in our faith in him by believing in him and trusting in him. Because what he did for our forefathers, he is willing to do for us today. And more. And they were the wicked ones. We're trying to live righteously before him. We're trying to walk in obedience. We have little to go on. They had everything at their feet. They saw with their eyes, they heard with their ears, but their hearts were hardened and calloused and filled with idols. So that's why he is even more patient with us today, because we have little to go on. And he did it this way because we have to choose by faith to believe in him or not. It's going to be by faith that we are regathered. It is going to be by faith that we believe in his son. It's by faith that we believe in him, that we believe in the miracles, that we believe that we will be regathered, that we will see the ending of this story, the ending of this, of these, the time, the era that we're living in, and the beginning of the new. By faith. We have nothing else to go on except the prophecies that he has written down through his prophets. He's spoken them through his prophets, and they wrote it down on his behalf and for our benefit. It's by faith. All by faith now. We're not seeing the miracles that he performed before our forefathers. We're not even hearing his voice like they heard his voice. We're not seeing the fire that they have seen. But by faith, we hear, and by faith we see, and by faith we believe. Can't explain it with words, we just believe. That's called faith. We have family and friends calling us crazy, but we still don't mind. We believe. People walk away from us and call us cuckoo. That's all right. We believe. They said that about Noah. I'm sure when he was building that ark and there was no water around. But he believed. And that's how we have to be today. All right? This time around, when he speaks to us from the fire in his pure form, he will do so to us face to face. And this time, there will be no fear of death, only pure joy. So after we're regathered, and I've spoken about this many, many times, after we're regathered and taken out of here, speaking of the southern kingdom first, the first thing that we're going to do is wash in the sea of water and be made pure, removing the sin nature from out of us. Then we eat from the tree of life and we receive immortality. So we are now going to be forever pure. And now the sin nature that once caused fear in the presence of Yahawah is gone. So now we can stand before him face to face without any veils. Just like Adam and Hawa were before they sinned. And the northern kingdom, the same thing. When they start their second Exodus, after the fifth trumpet, when all the rebels are gone, it's just the righteous remnant. They will do the same thing. He will present to them because they'll be walking in a perpetual garden now, shielded from all the misery from around them. They're going to be able to bathe in the sea of water and eat from the tree of life. All right, and he's going to present himself before them, leading them all the way to the land of Yahshua. We should be ready to receive them. And this is by faith we believe this. It's written down. You just got to see the bits and pieces and help and allow him to help you to put the bits and pieces together. I've done it for you. But now you need to pray and ask him to give you your own revelation, your own understanding. All right, let's read on. The Barayan, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 33. Did ever people hear the voice of Allah speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard, and live? Out of heaven he made you hear his voice, that he might instruct you. And upon earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his voice out of the midst of the fire. So this is Masha speaking to the people. They heard the voice of Allah out of the midst of the fire. And he showed them the fire too. Let's look at the Barayam chapter 5 verse 2. Yahawah Allah, that's our Allah, made a covenant with us in Horeb. That's on Mount Sinai. Yahawah made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all of us here alive this day. So he made this covenant with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But the 12 sons of Yaakov did not have this covenant, and their children after them, and their children after them. It was only these ones that came out of Matzorayim that Allah now have brought the covenant to them. He's now giving them the covenant that he gave to, that he made with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Verse 4. Yahawah talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. I stood between Yahawah and you at that time to show you the word of Yahawah, for you were afraid by reason of the fire and went not up into the mount. The reason why they couldn't go up, because they had idolatry hidden in their hearts. They never believed. Masha believed, Yahawah believed. So they went up to the top of the mountain. All right? Our forefathers in the wilderness were still strongly influenced by idolatry, that seeing the fire and hearing the voice of Yahawah from the midst of the fire terrified them. It was supposed to make them reverence him, to be in awe of him, but instead it terrified him to the point where we don't want to hear anymore. They were not fully for him, as they served other gods in their hearts, and so they could not believe in him because they lacked faith. They had no faith. And that's why us today, this generation that will be regathered, we have to operate by faith. We have to believe in Yahawah and believe in his promises. If you don't have the faith to believe, then you will not be regathered. He is only regathering his faithful servants. Okay. All the miracles that they witnessed still could not help them to increase in their faith because of this idolatry. And that's the first thing, and I would recommend to anyone to do, is to put away those gods that you serve. That's why I did a study called Who is God? To show you the gods that are out there. And I only show you a few, but there are many gods out there. Many, many gods. But our Allah Hayam has no image that we know of, that we have seen. We read about his image like a fire. We read of Hamashiach as well. But we don't have a photo, a picture of him. And we don't need one because we believe in him by faith. In them by faith. It is by faith that they manifest themselves to reinforce what we believe. And not the other way around. They don't need to come and prove to us who they are. We need to first believe that they are. And that belief, that faith, is manifested in our lives and causes our faith to blossom and to increase to the point where no matter who says what to us, we stand our ground and say, no, 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 no. I believe in Hamashiach. I believe in Yahawah. You have to believe. I know there's some people that only believe in Yahawah. They dismiss Hamashiach. That's a story for another time. That's a study for another time. We'll get to, when we study Hamashiach, we'll address that then. The Barayam chapter 5, the book of Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 22. These words Yahawah spoke unto all your assemblies in the mount out of the midst of the fire of the cloud and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tablets of stone. That's the law that he wrote down, the 10 commandments, and delivered them unto me. And it came to pass when you heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire, that you came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, behold, Yahawah Allah our Allah Hayam, has shown us his glory and his greatness. And we have heard his voice out of the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that Allah Hayam talks with man and he lives. Because they were still living at this point in time. Now therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. You see, the more they heard his voice, it is the idols in their hearts that was trembling. The idolatry that they were holding on to was causing them to shake in their boots. All right? Well, sandals, really. They didn't wear boots. They were shaking in their sandals. And there was a fear that they will have to release or else they die. They didn't want to release the idols in their hearts. And they certainly didn't want to die. So this is what they told Masha to do. Let's go back to verse 25. Now therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us, because they were not planning on letting go of idolatry. If we hear the voice of Yahawah Allah Hayana anymore, then we shall die. They will choose to die because they did not want to release or to put away their pagan gods out of their hearts. For verse 26, for who is there of all flesh that had heard the voice of the living Allahayam speaking out of the midst of the fire as we have and lived? Well, so far they were still living. He didn't strike them down, even though they had the idolatry in their hearts. But the more he spoke to them, the worse it got for them. The more they feared, and the more death was standing at the door waiting for them. They felt it. They had to make a choice to choose Allahayam or choose the idolatry that they were in. And guess what they chose? They chose idolatry. Verse 27. Go near and hear all that Yahawah Allah shall say. So this is the way how they fix the situation now. We want to have our cake and eat it too. Right? That's our people. All right? And speak you unto us all that Yahawah Allah shall speak unto you, and we will hear it and do it. So the way of fixing this situation is to compromise. We want to keep worshiping these idols in our hearts, but we also want the sweetness that Yahawah has promised us. So if we die, we're not going to enjoy it. If we give up our idols, well, we don't want to. We like our idols. Okay? Because we are the master of our idols. Remember, idols are man-made. Even though they are controlled by demon spirits, they are man-made. All right? So they can't let go of the creations, the inventions and the idols that they have made, even though it's hidden in their hearts. Because they're masters over their idols, right? But they cannot be master over Yahawah. And rebellion under the fallen angels will cause you to think this way, because this is how they thought in the beginning. They wanted to be rulers over Yahawah. And that's why they fell. They wanted to control him, but they could not. So they fell. And that same spirit, that same evil thinking filters into us. And that's why we gravitate towards idolatry, because we can control the idols that we create, or rather invent, but we cannot control him. All right. Let's read on. And Yahawah heard the voice of your words when you spoke unto me. This is verse 28. And Yahawah said unto me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken unto you. They have well said all that they have spoken. So yeah, he said they're right, because he knew that they were not going to put away their idols. So yes, they would die if I continue speaking to them. All right. Verse 29. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. So you see, Yahawah addressed the issue. He said, oh, that there were such a heart in them. He's addressing the situation. It was a heart issue here. Idolatry in their hearts. And they did not fear him, meaning reverence him, But they were terrified of him because of the same idolatry hidden in their hearts. And his commandments instructed them to put away their gods, but they did not. Yahawah made a covenant with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which was passed on to us today. He also made promises to them and to us today. A promise that one day we will dwell with him forevermore. A promise that he will destroy all of our enemies forever. A promise that we will become a people living in our own land again, and many, many more promises which he will perform according to his will. When Yahawah made his promises to our forefathers of giving them the land of Canaan, he also promised that he would drive out the inhabitants of the land. As he did so in the past, so will he again for this generation that is alive today. It was by his consuming fire which destroyed and drove out the giants then. And it will be so again for us in the coming near future in order to reclaim our promised land. Let's look at Debarayam chapter 9, the book of Deuteronomy chapter 9 verse 1. Hear, O Yashrael, you are to pass over Yarden, that is Jordan, this day, to go in to possess nations greater and mightier than yourself, cities great and fenced up to heaven, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakim, whom you know, and of whom you have heard say, who can stand before the children of Anak? Understand therefore this day that Yahawah Alahayat, that's your Alahayam, singular, personal, is he who goes over before you. As a consuming fire he will destroy them, and he shall bring them down before your face. So shall you drive them out and destroy them quickly, as Yahawah had said unto you. So when we are walking in obedience to Yahawah, he goes before us like a fire and destroy all of our enemies. Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from Alahayam out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So you see, his fire can destroy. The same fire that refines us and purifies us is the same fire that destroys our enemies. All right? All right. When we study the many ways in which the fire of Yahawah performs, it helps us to understand more about him. His fire is not limited, but it is unlimited in what he can do because he is that fire. Therefore, when we read about his fire consuming our enemies, we have to understand that he can and will use his glory to destroy. His fire goes before him and it surrounds him, and he is still that fire. This was what Yahazakaal saw, as Ezekiel, he saw in the throne room. This all-encompassing fire. This fire was so awesome, he couldn't even describe it. He could barely describe it. All right? We cannot forget the other aspect of the fire of Yahawah. He can destroy, but he also delivered and led with his fire, as well as protected. Yahawah was a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day when he led his people, the 12 tribes of Yashrael, in the wilderness. Let's look at Debarayam chapter 9 verse 15. That's Deuteronomy chapter 9 verse 15. And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, namely the tent of the testimony, and at evening there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until morning. So it was always. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. He was always with these people, even when they were in the wilderness. For the 40 years wandering, he was there with them. And that's why the nations around them trembled. They were afraid of the 12 tribes of Yahshua because of him. All right. Let's look at 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 1. Now when Shalawam, that Solomon, had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahawah filled the house. And the priest could not enter into the house of Yahawah, because the glory of Yahawah had filled Yahawah's house. That's the temple that Shalawam made, that he was dedicating. All right. And when Habaniah Yashrael saw how the fire came down and the glory of Yahawah upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worshipped and praised Yahawah, saying, For he is good, for his mercy endures forever. We saw before that the fire played a major role in the culture of Yashrael because of the sacrifices which they offered according to Yahawah's instruction. When sacrifices were done accordingly, depending on the purpose of the sacrifice, either the earthly fire consumed it, and it released a sweet savor unto the nostrils of Yahawah, showing that it was received and accepted because he was pleased with the offering by fire. Or his fire came down to consume the sacrifice, which would only happen if it was what he accepted. So we saw it here in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 1. When Shalomon made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices. And then the glory of Yahawah came down upon his house and filled his house. All right. Shamawah, the book of Exodus, chapter 29, verse 18. And you shall burn the whole ram upon the altar. It is a burnt offering unto Yahawah. It is a sweet savor, an offering made by fire unto Yahawah. So when they, our forefathers, sacrificed any of the burnt offerings to Yahawah according to his specification, it became a sweet savor, an offering made by fire to him. He accepted it. Okay? Judges chapter 6, verse 21. Then the angel of Yahawah put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there arose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of Yahawah departed out of his sight. And when Gadaowan, that's Gideon, perceived that he was an angel of Yahawah, Gadaowan said, Alas, O Yahawah Alahayam, for because I have seen an angel of Yahawah face to face. And Yahawah said unto him, Peace be unto you, fear not, you shall not die. He was afraid because he saw Hamashiach. He didn't see a regular angel, he saw Hamashiach. And he cried out to Yahawah. He was afraid that he was going to die because he saw the angel face to face. And look and see what this angel did. Gadaowan made an offering of the kid and the unleavened cakes, and the fire came out of the rock and consumed the offering. That meant it was accepted. Let's look at first Malachayam, that's the first Kings, chapter 18, verse 36. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah, that's Elijah, the prophet, came near and said, Yahawah Alahayam of Abraham, Yatzahak, and of Yashrael, Let it be known this day that you are Alahayam in Yashraal, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Hear me, O Yahawah, hear me, that this people may know that you are Yahawah Alahayam, and that you have turned their heart back again. Then the fire of Yahawah fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. So you see, this is the glory of Yahawah that received the offering that Elijah, Alayah, made unto him. Why? This was the time when you had the prophet, the priest of Baal, who made their offering to their gods, and it was not received. They cut themselves up. They do all kind of things from morning to evening. They were calling on their gods to receive their sacrifices. But Eliab came and he set up his altar, put his offering there, poured it with water 3 times, and then called on Yahawah, and Yahawah sent his fire and consumed everything: the wood, the stones, the dust, the water, the offering, everything. The fire ate up. And then the people, verse 39, saw it. They fell on their faces and they said, Yahawah, he is Alahayam. Yahawah, he is Alahayam. In the soon coming future, the glory of Yahawah will manifest physically to his people in several days. During the 3 days of darkness, his glory will be in the homes of his redeemed ones of the southern kingdom. Then he will send his son in the clouds with the fiery chariots, with horses and angels to regather them. So his glory is coming to get us, because these fiery chariots and fiery horses, that's the glory. All right, that's his glory. He will be the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night once again for the northern kingdom, when he regathers them for their journey in the second Exodus. And when they will reclaim his glory, and then they will reclaim his glory to be in his image forever after the regathering. So we spoke about that earlier. All right. We will return to the fullness of his glory when we wash in the sea of water and eat of the tree of life. Eat of the fruit of the tree of life. Second Malachayam, that's 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Alayah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Alayasha'o, who's Elisha, saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Yasha'al, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in 2 pieces. So his life now is changed, and now he has taken up the mantle of Alayah. And now he is doubly anointed because he saw the chariots when they came to receive Alayah. And the same chariot of fire with horses of fire, there are going to be many of them. They're going to be coming to receive the southern kingdom. Okay? Second Malachayam, 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 16. And he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Alayasha'o, who is Elisha, prayed and said, Yahawah, I pray to you, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahawah opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Alayasha'o. All right. So this was the time when the servant of Alayasha'o, they saw the armies that came out against Alayasha'o. Forgot which army it was. And Alayasha'o was calm and he was cool. And he's like, oh, but do you not see the armies there? And he's like, I only see the armies surrounding us. And who is surrounding us is more than them that you're seeing. And that's when Alayasha'o prayed for the Most High, Yahawah to open up the eyes of his servant so that he could see what he was seeing, what Allah Yahshua was seeing. So these same horses and chariots of fire are coming for us. All right. The regathering of the southern kingdom first, and then the northern kingdom will be done by Yahawah, who will send his son. He will not be raising up a man or a woman to use them as his deliverer. No, no, no. All these people that want to be like Masha, to lead the 12 tribes into a wilderness and so on and so forth, come again. Go back to the scriptures and read the scriptures again. Yes, there will be a second Exodus. No, he will not be using a man or a woman to do it. he himself will be doing it. Because if these people now that will be regathered will be the ones that are redeemed, and they will be the righteous remnant. There'll be no rebels amongst them that will cause any problems. Look at what Masha went through with the mixed multitude and the rebels that our forefathers were. No, no, no. He's not doing that again. So he's going to weed out the rebels first and then regather those that belong to him and only them, right? No rebels, all gone. It is for this reason why he will purge out the rebels first from amongst his people before their deliverance. There will still be a small number of doubters amongst the northern kingdom when they begin their second Exodus journey, but soon even these ones will be removed from the righteous remnant. So by the fifth trumpet judgment, these doubters will leave. They will not believe. They will become fearful of all the things that will be seen around them. And so they will seek shelter and food elsewhere. They're not going to keep trusting. They will go as far as they can go. And then there will come a time when they will make a decision, we're leaving this group. All right, because we simply can't go on like this anymore. We got to go and find our own way. All right. And that's when Yahawah will cause the garden of Odan to appear before these righteous remnant of the northern kingdom, that they will walk in this garden perpetually until they're led to our land called Yashrael. All right, no more struggling for water or food, and they will now have flowing water. They still have to travel, but the garden will be guiding them. They'll be walking in this garden, but the garden then will be taking them, literally carrying them to the land. All right? But people will not be able to believe this because it sounds far-fetched, right? But they can believe in luxury liners taking them to Eden, but they can't believe this. All right, go figure, right? It will be through his fire, which we all are experiencing today in the lands of our captivity, that is already burning in our hearts, beginning with the purging of the rebels from among us, the southern kingdom. So this fire that we're feeling, you see, this is why we're going through things. We're not going through things because of yes, the enemy is attacking us. Of course the enemy is attacking us, but Allah Hayam Yahawah is allowing the enemy to bring things our way to purge out the doubts and the fears, so that faith would blossom and fill those gaps, so that at the end of it all, we'll be walking, talking people of faith. So don't think that what you're going through is only to try to destroy you. Allah Hayam, if you believe in him, you believe in his son, it is not to destroy you, but it is to cause your faith to blossom and to grow. This is the only way faith will blossom and grow. Think of faith like a muscle. If you don't go to the gym, your body become very slack and loose and weak. But if you're a person that exercise a few times a week, you lift your weights, you do whatever exercises you do to build strength. You build strength when you build muscle, all right? And how you build muscle, you have to exercise and use strength and use weights, use something that will cause the muscle to strain. Because when your muscles begin to strain, they're beginning to strengthen. That's how you strengthen your muscle. You have to strain them. And how you strain them is by carrying a force that is greater than what your muscles can handle. Not that great that it will kill you, but great enough that it will cause you to feel a burning in those muscles. And then pretty soon, those muscles become so strengthened that weight, you could barely lift up a 10-pound weight. Now the 10-pound weight, you can lift it with a finger. And I'm being facetious as well, of course, right? But sorry about that. But pretty soon now you're moving on to a 12-pound weight. And then you move on to a 15-pound weight. That's because your muscles are strengthening. And you're blossoming. And that's the same way your faith operates. You have to exercise faith. He will put you through situations that will otherwise cause you to curl up in a corner with your thumb in your mouth and you're you're in this fetal ball, you know. Sometimes I feel that way. Right? I go through stuff. I go through a lot of stuff. I know why he's putting me through this, because he's building my faith. And even while I'm going through it, I'm like, oh my goodness, more of this again. And it's short-lived. And the reason why it's short-lived is because I leave it alone. I just step back and say, okay, this is your domain, not mine, right? You take care of this, Abba. You take care of this. Because if I try to take care of this, I'm going to make a mess. And I'm going to cause myself stress from now to next year. But if you take care of this, it's going to be taken care of within the hour. And so said, so done. So said, so done. And that's what I'm saying to you. You're going through things in your life. It is not there to destroy you, but to strengthen you. To strengthen your faith in Him, which is building your relationship in Him. Preparing you for the glory that He's sending your way for the 3 days of darkness. You see, the glory has to first be in you for that glory to light up your home during the 3 days of darkness. Okay, let's read on, because I still have one slide left. All right. Let's see where I left off. Okay. Let me go back here. Okay, so let me read this line again and then we'll go on. It will be through his fire, which we're all experiencing today in the lands of our captivity, that is already burning in our hearts, beginning with the purging of the rebels from amongst us, the southern kingdom. Even though we may not see Yahawah's consuming fire like our forefathers, it is still at work burning the shaft within us. And we know that's sin, right? Which is to help transform us to be the people of Allah Hayam Yahawah. He wants us to be a people of faith. He wants us to be a people of faith. Because when we believe in Him, it's credited to us for righteousness. When we walk in His commandments, His laws, His statutes, and His judgments, holiness is accredited to us. All right? Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, said Yahawah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people. And they shall say, Yahawah Alahai, my Alahayam. So this is what he is doing. Now, in all the land he's talking about, we are spread to the four corners of the earth. So only two parts of our people, sorry, not only, two parts of our people will be destroyed. He said here, two parts will be cut off and they will die. And talking about the southern kingdom here, dealing with them first. All right? A third will be left because we're the ones that are scattered to the four corners of the earth. We're not dealing with the northern kingdom. They're still sleeping. They're going to have to go through another kind of trial, another kind of persecution with the beast empire number 7. So the third that will be left, all right, he already knows the third that is left. He already knows the 2/3 that he will cut off and destroy. We are the ones that are being brought through the fire to be refined as silver is refined, to be tried to become like gold. This is what is happening to us today. So that now when we call on his name, he is going to hear us. Why? Because we have been refined. We have been purified. So now he can declare us to be his people. And we now can say, yes, he is Yahawah Al-Hai. Yahawah, the book of Isaiah chapter 5 verse 24. Therefore, as the fire devours the stubble and the flame consumes the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of Yahawah Sabaoth and despised the word of the Holy One of Yasha'al. So all those brethren of ours, we're not even dealing with the Gentiles because they, a lot of them are into Jesus and whatever else, Yeshua, whatever, right? But we're dealing with our brethren here now, right? He's going to devour with his same glory. This same glory is going to destroy many of our 2/3 of our brethren. And even the 1/3 that is left, he is going to bring them through some more fire. Nobody can escape this fire. The northern kingdom is going to have to go through the fire. The Gentiles are going to have to go through this fire. It's just that he's dealing with us first. All right? And yet it was Yahawah's fire that filled the disciples on the day of Pentecost, preparing them for the ministry which Hamashiach left for them to do on his behalf. And not only ministry, but it transformed them to be his apostles, messengers sent with his divine message. So you see the many ways in which his consuming fire is used or was used and is still being used. It's just that we don't see it with our natural eyes. But it's there, we feel it. Acts chapter 2 verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. Did it destroy them? No, this fire came to fill them, to transform them from disciples to apostles with a message from Hamashiach, a message that he handed to them to preach, and now he has appointed them and anointed them to preach it. Let's drop down to carry on verse 4. And they were filled with Ruach HaKadosh, and began to speak with other tongues, as how Ruach gave them utterance. You see, we have a lot of people today calling themselves apostles, prophets, and prophetesses, and they have no utterance from Ruach HaKodesh. They speak gibberish from the demons that whisper in their ears. Utter nonsense. That's the only utterance that they get, utter nonsense. Verse 14. But Ka'apa'a, who is Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, You men of Yahawah, this is the southern kingdom that he's speaking to, and all you that dwell in Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunk as you suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Yahawah. This is the prophet Joel. All right. And it shall come to pass in the last days, said Elohim, I will pour out my ruach upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And all my servants and all my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my ruach, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in the heavens above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. Those are his judgments. This prophecy is found in Yahawah chapter 2 verses 28 to 30. I'm not going to rewrite it because it's exactly word for word, okay? But that's where you find it. The book of Joel chapter 2 verses 28 to 30. And although it was fulfilled in Ka'apas, this is Peter's time, the day of Pentecost, it still has another fulfillment event when once again Ruach will be poured out upon his servants on the earth. Many people today claim that they are prophets or prophetesses and predicting the future based on what is in the news today. They do not have Ruach speaking through them. They are charlatans, false prophets, and agents of the Satans. I don't care if they knowingly do it or unknowingly do it. They are agents of Satan. You're speaking as an agent of Satan. You're working for him. But for the northern kingdom today, and even the Gentiles that belong to Yahawah, he will pour out his ruach upon them in order to preserve them on the earth. They will need these prophecies and these dreams and these visions to help them to get through the difficult times that they're going to be going through. Not the southern kingdom. We've already had thousands of years of prophecies and events and everything to go, and Ruach HaKodesh too. We already had it all. We don't need another prophet to prophesy to us because all they're prophesying is gibberish. They're making predictions about politics and prediction about entertainers and all kind of nonsense that has nothing to do with the word of Elohim and edifying his people. Not a thing to do to edify them. These people are so crazy, right? They look at these people and think, oh yeah, maybe they can repent and return to the Most High. They're agents. These all entertainers, all the actors and actresses, all of them, they're all agents of Satan. They're all their children. That's why they do what they do. They're in the entertainment business, whether they're in sports or what have you, they belong to him. So there's no salvation waiting for them. They're doing what they're paid to do, and that's why they're paid well. And they're paid well to divide us, to mesmerize us, to cause us to want to mimic them, imitate them, all the way to the lake of fire, where they're headed. All right? We're not supposed to have our eyes on these people. We are supposed to have our eyes on one person, that's the Most High, Yahawah. But you see, the problem is with these charlatans that call themselves prophets and prophetesses and apostles and reverends, I don't know, whatever they call themselves, right? I don't have a title. My name is Hadassah. That's all I that's all I care about. All right? I'm a servant. The problem with them is that they are worshiping pagan gods. Look and see who they're calling upon. Look and see who they're worshiping. And that should satisfy your understanding as to why they're doing what they're doing. All right? That should satisfy you. It satisfies me. That's why I don't even bother my head with them. I kind of roll my eyes and just move on. Right? I have time to waste on these people. But I say something to warn you in case you are following these people that you need to get out from under them. Because these people, they're dabbling in darkness, and that darkness can penetrate even through social media. You start to give ear to them and you start giving them offerings and what have you, sending them money, you're being sucked into them. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. All right, let's move on. They do not have Ruach. How Ruach speaking through, I said, read that already. Let me see. Yes, the southern kingdom do not need prophets like of old, as we have had the outpouring of Ruach HaKadash as spoken above. We already had it. That's what we're living in. All right? That's what we're living in. This outpouring is still evident for us today as it is by Ruach HaKadash that we were awakened, sparking what we see today as the Great Awakening. We weren't awakened 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 100 years ago. Very few people knew about who we are, who the Negroes are, but only a few. But the Great Awakening occurred in the last few years because Allah Hayam Yahawah is getting ready to regather the southern kingdom. All right? So, in order for us to find our path, to find our way, to get out of idolatry, because many of us came out of the churches worshiping Jesus and the cross. So, in order for us to have that chance, that opportunity to choose Him, He had to reveal Himself to us and to reveal who we are, our true identity, so that we will have that moment like, okay, well, that makes sense because the church didn't make any sense. Their doctrines didn't make any sense. Even before I was awakened, the church doctrines never made any sense to me. And when you start to question them, they ostracize you. All right? All right, let's move on. There will be individuals who will dream and have visions, but this is to confirm what is written in the word of Allah. I am not to prophesy a new prophecy. There are no new prophecies coming. The only thing that Allah Hayam Yahawah is doing with us today is unveiling the mysteries in His word, in His prophecies, unveiling His prophecies so that we can understand what He is saying. And so better prepare ourselves to make a choice, to choose Him or not. It will be Yahawah's unquenchable fire that will encompass His people living in the city of Yarowashalam. Zechariah chapter 2 verse 4. And said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Yahawah shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, said Yahawah, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. So he's going to surround his people with his glory, and the glory will also be in our midst. This is what we're working towards today. To live in the presence of Yahawah, which is glory, to reflect his glory in the city of glory. All right? Note the timing of the wall of fire that will surround Yahawah. It will be the time of the northern kingdom inhabiting our land, waiting for Hamashiach to come with his saints to begin his millennial reign. We see now the many aspects of the glory of Yahawah, his fire with which he had used and will continue to use for his purpose. The purpose of the use of his fire reveals who he is. When he fights and destroys with his fire, he is the consuming fire, and he's a warrior. When he encompasses his servants and our land, he is our protector. When he leads us by his fire and his clouds, he is our guide. When he fills us, he empowers us, and he is the source of the power, as he is the source of the power. When he refines us, he is transforming us. When he purges us, he is our righteous judge. And when he consumes our offerings, he is Elohim Yahawah. He is our Elohim. Okay, Elohim. He said, what is going to happen in the next coming while is glory returning to the earth. The glory has been lifted off the earth and has been lifted off the earth for a long time now. All right. Then Hamashiach came and he became the light upon the earth. He became glory upon the earth. And then he left. But he left behind his Ruach, and he left behind his truth, which is our light. Okay? And these that he has left behind is to cause the fire, his glory, to burn within. And that burning of the glory within is what is preparing us for our purpose and our roles in the coming millennial reign that he is going to establish on the earth. His glory is returning in fullness. When he comes the second time, he is coming with his glory. There will be no more sun, moon, or stars. He is coming with his glory, and his glory is going to shine upon the earth. And he will be the light thereof. Yahawah will be the light thereof upon the earth. And we, the 12 tribes of Yahshua, will be dwelling in his glory. The Gentiles now, they will be dwelling in his glory, but not as concentrated as the glory that will be in our land where we are going to be dwelling in. His light is going to shine on all. Everyone will have the benefit of living in his glory. And that's why when he judged now the Gentiles, they can't say he is unjust. They had 1,000 years of peace. Didn't have to buy anything. No money needed. You have your land, you can build your home, have your flocks, and live prosperously. Not like today, where you have to buy everything. All right? But that will not be sufficient for them. Even the glory that they're living under, that will extend to them, will not be sufficient, will not be enough to cause them to want to worship Him, because they will be filled with jealousy and envy. And that's why when Satan is loose out of his abyss, out of his prison, they will become his armies. Many of them will become his armies, and they will come up against us. We read that in the scripture, Revelation chapter, I believe it's chapter 20. Yes, Revelation chapter 20. All right? And they will try to surround us, but he will destroy them in the mountains. Okay? That's the Gog and Magog. And it will be Yahawah himself that will destroy them with fire. Fire coming from heaven. So today, we don't have any more wars to fight. The only people that will have a war to fight will be the northern kingdom. But the southern kingdom, our fighting is done. The only fighting that we're fighting now is spiritual battles. Our spiritual battles. That's the only fighting that we have left now to deal with. But when you have the glory dwelling within you, you're not really fighting anything. It is the glory in you that is going to reach out and fight them. That's why I'm doing these studies to help you to understand that you can't fight against what's going on in this world. We have no strength against these wicked demons that are in this world. They have all their people in the high places, controlling everything. But they can't control us, and they know that. And they know their days are numbered. So they're trying their best to see how many people they can destroy along with them. They know that they're already destroyed. So now they want to bring down more people with them. Okay? So we need to wake up and recognize who we're worshiping. He's not playing. He's not playing. He's a little quiet now. He's a little quiet now. But there's coming a day when he will no longer be quiet. And when he starts to roar, either you will roar back to him because you belong to him, or you collapse and die. The people that belong to him, they will not fear. They will not be terrified. Only the ones that do not belong to him. They will quake and they will die out of that fear, that terror that will grip their hearts and cause their hearts to stop. That's what's coming. There's going to be a lot of death coming, a lot of destruction coming. And if you're not steadfast in the word of Allah Yahawah, if you don't know what's coming, it's going to shake you to the core that you will die right along with them and perish too. All right. Let's end with the blessing for Yasha'al taken from Ba Madabar chapter 6 verses 24 to 26. That's Numbers chapter 6 verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahawah wa Yashamarak. May Yahawah bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahawah panayo alayak wa yahanak. May Yahawah cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahawah panayo alayak wa yasham lak Shalawam. May Yahawah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now I will recite the blessing that Yahawah said to recite, the command that Yahawah said to recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, and when we come in, taken from Debarayam chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, and that's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al, Yahawah Alahayana, Yahawah Ahad, wa Ahabath Ath, Yahawah Alahayak, Bakal Babak, Wabakal Napashat, Wabakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahawah our Alahayam is one Yahawah, and you shall love Yahawah your Alahayam with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And with that I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam. All praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.